This is for educational use only. Our group is allowing our instructor, Mr. Roldan Ardanes, to use this as an educational material. Before we proceed, here are our objectives. First, know one's political self. Second, define, connect, and comprehend the topic of Filipino identity, values, traits, community, and institutional factors. Determine the connection between democracy and citizenship. And lastly, give real life examples or situations for the two topics.
So, good day everyone. I'm Christine M. Klama. I'm going to discuss about Filipino identity, values, traits, and institution factors. So, what is political self? Political self refers to the representation of oneself about him or himself. Political self also refers to the values and traits from one's culture, race, ethnicity, religious beliefs, and language. Political self also explores for our social and economic context that affects our mental health and well-being. So these are the enumeration of Filipino values. Number one is the Pakikipagkapwa-tao. This means this shared sense of identity and consciousness of the others. So this means treating others with respect and dignity as an equal, not someone below the individual. So family orientation, the basic one and the most important unit of a Filipino's life and the family. So this practice of separating elderly from the rest of the family is often looked down upon in a Filipino society. So, joy and humor. This famous trait is the ability to Filipinos to find humor in everything. This means it sheds light on the optimism and positivity of the Filipinos. So, flexibility, adaptability, and creativity. These studies show that Filipinos often have an aversion to set a standardized rules or procedures. They are also known to follow natural clock or organic sense of time doing things. They are also presented and oriented. So, faith and religiosity. Filipinos have a strong faith in God as seen in their various practices. So, what are the positive Filipino values? So, number one, hospitality. A Filipino host will always offer food to a guest or to anyone. Like, for example, foreigners who have gone to the Philippines find themselves falling in love with the warm hospitality to show them. Second is respect. This is often observed not by just the younger people but also people of all ages. Children respect elders by saying po and opo, which means yes, answering the elders. Children or young adults are also show respect by putting their elders' hands on their forehead in the form of manpo. So, what is the negative values of the Filipinos? So, crab mentality is a point of view or competition that if we cannot win, then no one will win, instead of being helping each other to be successful. So the second one is procrastination or mananana habit. Is one of the most negative traits of some people. It means mamayana in Filipino or to do a certain thing in later time. It is a procrastinate way of doing a things or simply means finding a way to delay a work to be done.
Good day everyone, I am Don Lawrence H. Caminada and we're going to have a short discussion about Filipino identity, weakness of the Filipino character. Before we proceed to the main topic, let me briefly explain what character is. So character is defined as the way someone thinks, feels, and behaves. In other words, it is someone's personality. In this video, I will present to you 6 of these weaknesses of Filipino identity, and those are extreme personalism, extreme family-centeredness, lack of discipline, passivity, and lack of initiative, kanya-kanya syndrome, and lastly, lack of self-analysis and self-awareness. Number 1, we have extreme personalism. Takes things personally and cannot separate objective tasks from the emotional involvement. Number 2, we have extreme family-centeredness. It is the excessive concern for the family which creates an in-group to which the Filipino is fiercely loyal to the detriment of concern for the common good. Number two, we have lack of discipline. It is caused by the lack of willpower, motivation, and ambition. It is also a poor state of health and physical condition. Number four, we have passivity and lack of initiative. It is defined as waiting to be told what to do, reliance on others, complacency, and the lack of sense of urgency. Number five, we have Kanya-Kanya syndrome. Us Filipinos have a selfish, self-serving attitude that generates a feeling of envy and competitiveness towards other people. And lastly, we have number six, lack of self-analysis and self-awareness. Without self-reflection, we simply go through life moving from one thing to the next without pausing to consider whether or not things are going well. We do not pause to think, and because of that, we often get unfortunate results. Once again, I am Don Lawrence H. Caminade, and my report is about Filipino identity, the weaknesses of Filipino character. Thank you for listening.
Good day, everyone. You can call me Ray, and today I'm going to tackle the Filipino identity, strength of the Filipino characters. Filipino identity strength of the Filipino characters are kapwa, or a shared inner self, lies at the core of Filipino values and psychology. A person who treats another as a kapwa has a sense of identity and consciousness with that other person. Strong emphasis is placed on social acceptance and maintaining social harmony. As such, social approval and caring about what others will think, say, or do strongly influence social behavior. There are three main value orientations engendered by the core value of kapwa, which is the first is Filipinos love to connect, especially to people. Second is Filipinos like to experience the multi-dimensional wholeness of life. Third is Filipinos are highly participatory. And the next is family-oriented. The general definition of family-oriented means that a person puts their family and loved ones at the core of their priorities. Family-oriented people tend to focus on family values, draw strength from their family, lean on family in decision-making processes, and put the needs of the family ahead of their own. Sense of humor. A sense of humor refers to the ability to find things funny, general enjoyment in doing so, or the particular types of things one finds funny. Adaptability is a willingness to confront or change your own ideas and preconceptions. Flexibility is more a willingness to meet others halfway procedurally, according to a new column in Forbes. Faith and religion are similar yet very different concepts. Religions are historic and cultural systems that evolve with time, while faith is an individualistic, personal feeling of one person. Religion is a means through which people can express their faith. Thus, hospitality is the act of welcoming guests or strangers, or entertainment of guests or strangers without reward or with kind and generous liberality. Next is bayanihan. Bayanihan is a Filipino custom derived from the Tagalog word bayan for nation, town, or community. Bayanihan is literally means of being in a bayan, and it refers to a fundamental aspect of Filipino culture, working together as a community to achieve a common goal. If you're respectful, you show consideration and regard for someone or something. Respectful is the adjective form of the common word respect, which means a feeling of admiration. So when you behave in a way that's respectful, you're doing something to show admiration for another person. That's all. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Axel Lim Maturan and I would like to discuss about Filipino identities, values, traits, community and institutional factors which is connected to our report titled Political Self. Values assist people in finding a common solution to a survival issue. Filipino values may he attributed to various influences, including as a person, as a parent, or as a katutubo. Certain values is fluctuate, which means they can be positive or negative. Like for example, Filipino has a positive values attitude, like being friendly, being respectable to elders by saying po and opo, or pakikisama, or hospitable by generous to guests. And there are some kind of negative values or attitude that we use done, such as bahala na attitude, grab mentality, Filipinos, Filipino time, and gaya-gaya attitude. And those are the various habits of Filipinos that we have lived with our natives before, and we are used to it until now. Every culture shares fundamental principles of the Filipino accompanied by worldviews and personalities without expectations and predictability. A culture would disintegrate and its members would lose their personalities, identities, and sense of worth. This is why it is important to be part of a culture that shares a common interior or core set of values. Values explain to Filipinos what is right, significant, beneficial, productive, and so on.
Filipino identity, values, traits, community, and institutional factors. Identity is the concept you form about yourself over the course of your life. Maintaining your identity is essential because it strengthens your character. That is, when we know who we are, have confidence in ourselves, and can identify our own strengths, we become stronger people. And it keeps us distinct and distinguishes us from others. Individual, community, and institutional values are primary factor in the formation of an identity. Citizenship or being a Filipino serve as a cognitive and motivational foundation for one's belief and behavior. The family, church, school, media, and non-governmental organizations are the institutions that shape and influence citizenship values. Your cultural identity is an important component of your personal identity that develops as you observe, interpret, and adopt beliefs. Community identities are important as motivators for people, groups, and organizations in creating pride, self esteem, unity, a sense of belonging, and social responsibility. Communities with common interests, values, thoughts, and attitudes encourage us to live better lives, strive for more, and focus on the outcomes we seek, creating a sense of belonging, acceptance, understanding, and inspiration. To sum up, our perspective and actual experiences shape our perspective, which in turn shape our identity. What we believe is what we experience, which is why our beliefs and values have a discernible impact in our relationship and our work.
Hi everyone, I'm Queenie Tachada and now I'm going to tackle about democracy and citizenship and political self. So what is political self? Political self is the side of us that is concerned with laws or aspects of politics. In this regard, it is when oneself is evaluating, analyzing, advocating, spending time, or being conscious in political matters. And what are the connections between democracy and citizenship and our political selves? Since we are living here in the Philippines, an example of a democratic country, our political selves are developed, especially when we are involved in an argument. It's because, as citizens, we have the freedom to fight for our rights and the desire to speak for ourselves. For instance, we have the right to vote for our political candidate who serves our interests and believes that he or she is suitable and capable of governing our country. However, our decisions may usually be influenced by our family, peers, education, gender, etc. Moreover, the decisions that we make reflect upon us, our culture, manners, values, and beliefs, as well as our conformity. Being an active or engaged citizen in this democratic country is essential for it to thrive. Thus, as citizens of this country, we must exercise caution when selecting our leaders. It is crucial to understand one's political self. One can ask oneself which of the candidate is worthy of taking a risk. We must get to choose and think wisely as they are our future leaders and will have a major influence in the development of our country. To conclude, we should be an active and a responsible citizen in this democratic country, making use of our power, the right to freedom, and contributing the nation's success.
Political self refers to the way in which individuals' personal identity and values intersect with their political beliefs and actions. In other words, it is the idea that a person's sense of self and their understanding of their place in the world is linked to their political views and engagement. The political self can be shaped by a variety of factors, including family upbringing, cultural background, educational experiences, personal values, and social and economic circumstances. It can also be influenced by the broader political and cultural context in which an individual lives. For some people, they may feel more strongly or less strongly about politics and still recognize its importance in shaping their lives and the world around them. Democracy is a form of government in which supreme power is held by the people and is exercised directly through elected representatives. Like us Filipinos, for example, we live in a democratic country. We elect our presidents that we think might greatly help us in developing our country's economical needs. Democracy can be seen as a fundamental aspect of political self, particularly for individuals who value freedom, equality, and participation in decision-making processes, while citizenship is another important aspect of political self. It refers to individuals' legal and social status within a particular community and carries with its rights and responsibilities. In most countries, citizenship is conferred through birth within a particular territory or through a legal process of naturalizations for individuals who are not born in that country. And once a citizen, we are entitled to a certain range of rights and privileges, including the right to vote, access to public services and benefits, and protections under the law depending on what country we live in.
Hi, I'll be explaining and talking about types of democracy. So there are four kinds of democracy, but I will explain the constitutional democracy and the monetary democracy. So what is constitutional democracy is? A constitutional democracy is a government in which people vote for a representative or laws, in which the law are authorized and constrained by a constitution. Such a system is also referred to as liberal democracy. That constitution is usually a written document, although in the case of United Kingdom, it is a set of documents that collectively form into a constitutional set of rules. Constitutional democracy relates to global justice in two ways. Justice requires a uniform set of rules or law in contrast to arbitrary whims of powerful individuals. Secondly, democracy needs constitutional limits in order to prevent the tyranny of the democratic majority, in order for a justice to be truly global. So next is monetary democracy. So what is monetary democracy is? So monetary democracy is an age of surveys focuses groups
deliberative polling, online petitions, and audience, and customer voting. According to studies, political scientist John Kane suggests that a new form of democracy is evolving in which government is constantly monitored in its exercise of power by a vast array of public and private agencies, commissions, and regulatory mechanisms.
Democracy. What is democracy? It is a system of government by the whole population or all the eligible members of a state, typically through elected representatives, or can be taught as power of the people. There are four types of democracy, namely direct democracy, representative democracy, constitutional democracy, and monetary democracy. And I will be talking about the two types of democracy mainly practiced around the world, and these are direct and representative democracy. So, direct democracy or pure democracy is a form of democracy in which the electorate decides on policy initiatives without elected representatives as proxies. This is the type of democracy wherein the citizens directly perform the job of crafting and deciding upon public policies instead of elected representatives. This means that people don't need to elect public officials to constitute a policy-making body, while representative democracy, also known as indirect democracy, is a type of democracy where elected people represent a group of people, in contrast to direct democracy. In this type of democracy, we, the voting public, elect our representatives who shall take of drafting laws and deliberate on our behalf with regard to the enactment or repeal of those laws. This is why people in the Congress and the Senate are called lawmakers. This is the setup in the Philippines, in our country, where we elect our representatives to Congress as well as the Senate. We afford the congressmen and the senators the right to pass laws on our behalf.
Democracy and citizenship. Democracy, the power emanates from the people, the citizen. Governance is always necessary and important but cannot be more critical than the citizen itself. The source of power cannot be overpowered by lesser forces that only derive the power from it. In other words, in a democracy, the key is always the people. All begin and the flow from the people, which then leads me to question with either the Philippines is a democracy or seriously trying to be one. As far back as I can remember, the focus has always been in our leaders, with either in a public or private sector. Philippines governance seems to be feudalism doing a poor job that transitioning towards democracy. Both public and private sectors continue to highlight the need for good governance when there is disproportionate attention given to good citizenship. Yet democracies are about citizens first and foremost. It is no wonder that our people are weak, not only because many continue to be poor, but also because they have not transitioned from being feudal subject to responsible citizens. That elite never welcomed the necessity of strengthening the citizens, and that is why there is hardly any effective attempt to empower the mass. It takes a statesmanship or refined ethical integrity to surrender historical advantage, especially to these who were of lower status in feudal system. Enabling the weak is a prestigious human process, not unlike rearing children towards their independence, the development of their children, while former feudal overseers may need choice to do take their time.